Welcome, guys. My name is Tarah Keech. We are so happy to have you here. I am here with the honorable and amazing Bridgette Raes, my own personal style icon and stylist. You are. It's true.
You're setting them up for a lot of expectations.
Well, in all sincerity, I adore the work that Bridgette does, and I am thrilled to be here talking with you, my Bridgette. We wanted to just sit on the couch, basically, and talk through some really cool stuff and the way we think about insecurity. So that's what we're here to do with you guys. This topic today, this is our first try at this. This is, we jokingly called it Two Introverts on a Couch, talking about insecurity. So my name, again, is Tarah Keech. I am the founder and host of The Real Crew, which is the collective of real executive women. I help professional women learn and apply psychology in their corporate worlds. So I come to the table hoping to share that with you, hoping to share a couple things about how to get through your insecurity. And Bridgette, I know you talk with professional women all day, every day, and see a lot of insecurity from the inside and out. So welcome, introduce yourself.
Oh, sure. Well, hi, my name is Bridgette Raes, as Tarah said. I am a personal stylist. I am the founder of Bridgette Raes Style Group, which is an image and style consulting company for women that I started 15 years ago in New York City. I was a fashion designer for 10 years before that. So basically, I've been in this industry forever. I wrote the authored. Who says authored, Tarah?
No, it sounds good.
Okay. I wrote the book, Style RX, Dressing the Body You Have to Create the Body You Want. And I blog, and what else do I do? I just basically dress women for a living. How horrible is that as an introduction?
I think it's really accurate. You are an inspiration, though. Do you want to talk about your Facebook group at all?
Oh, yeah. Well, I just launched a Facebook group through my page. And in a week, we have about just under 500 members. And I have to tell you, like, I created the space, but these women are like making it happen because they are awesome. And in this day and age of like Facebook trolls and people fighting and negativity, especially around like fashion and style, these women are bringing it. And like, I have to tell you, I would sit down and have coffee with just about each and every one of them. They're really pretty incredible. And they were really chatty from the start. So I was worried I was going to create this Facebook group and then like, it would be just, like me talking to myself for a while, and it was not that. So I'm really honored that these women decided that they were going to make my group a place that they were going to chat really open and authentically about the real part of fashion and style, not just like, what's trending on the runways, because, no one really cares about that.
It's not real life. And I think your group speaks to the safe place you created for us to be just really, again, authentic. And because we come to the table with all sorts of insecurity, right? Not just about like appearance, but the way that we're presenting ourselves to the world. And
absolutely
we are. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And I appreciate you being part of it.
Everyone who's listening to this should go to Bridgette's page and join right now. Also, I invite you to join therealcrew.com.
Yes, go there.
If you're interested about how to wield the power of psychology to get more stuff done and get ahead in your own personal career, you're welcome to join there. So, yay, Bridgette. So you really did segue us pretty clearly for insecurity. Tell me about the insecurity you see in what you do every day.
Well, I think there's a lot of insecurity around image and style and how we're presenting ourselves because it sort of speaks for us. They've already proven that we are perceived most strongly based on our body language and our nonverbal. So it really means something. But I think a lot of women feel insecure. And what's interesting about it is I think that when women call me, they really think they're the only ones. Like, they're like, everyone else figured this out. Everyone else seemed to have gotten a lesson. I missed it. What's wrong with me? And I'm like, okay, I've been doing this for 15 years. Like, I can finish your sentence. Like, you are like everyone else. And there's something reassuring about that, I think, for a lot of them, because they realize that it's not just them. So I see it all the time. And I see it a lot with corporate women, because that's mainly who I work with, where they are now in a situation where they're rising in their career or they want to, and they really are noticing that disconnect. And when they feel there's an alignment, they really do get more done, because not necessarily because of what they're wearing, but how they feel in what they're wearing. So the perception of themselves changes.
Yep. Well, insecure, like it's funny to think about it from an evolutionary psychology perspective, because insecurity indicates fear. And fear is really important, right? Like it's how we got to survive on the planet. It helps us not just emotionally with each other, but like literally in a physical sense. So don't think you're alone. I think you're absolutely right. And it's completely normal. But when it starts to be that cycle of dysfunctional thought that just gets you trapped and feeling insecure and unable to step forward, that's when you need to make a change. So that's the flag, right?
Right. And don't you think that like the only difference between those who accomplish and those who don't are those who like lean into that fear and say, okay, it's here. You know, I just had a meeting this morning at my gym, and we were just, it's a local gym. I live in this tiny little Brooklyn neighborhood, and I was like, oh, we should be doing some things together. And the manager of the gym was like, oh my God, sit down, we can talk. And we came up with all these different ideas. And like I walked out of there like with a pit in my stomach, because I'm like, no, okay, no, everyone who sees me at the gym every day who looks like I'm like, you know, a homeless person and la la la, and they're gonna think this, and you know what, maybe I don't want to do this anyway, you know, like that, like, so the difference between me or someone who, you know, and I can't say I'm always successful at this, is someone who is like, okay, I feel like I'm gonna vomit, but keep going, you know, and then those who let themselves be stopped by that feeling of fear.
That's exactly right. So what would you say to the woman who recognizes in hearing this that she's got some insecurity? Leaning into it is so easy to say, but so hard to do. Do you, like what is your like what's
what
the
do I
trigger for you to take action? What's the trigger for you to say, okay, here it is.
I remind myself that Sir Laurence Olivier used to say that he would throw up every time before he would perform.
Yeah.
I always remember that. And, you know, I was raised, I don't know how you were raised, Tarah, but I was raised in that mentality where you don't get coddled, right? So it's like, there was no, I mean, they weren't like horrible people, but like, you know, if you signed up for something or you agreed to do something, like you've thought through. And so I guess I learned how to cope through the feelings. I think, you know, I think I torture myself way more than I probably need to. But I think what's important to remember too is that remind yourself that we're all feeling this way. And also, I think how often we have really admired those who've been allowed themselves to be vulnerable. Like, I don't think I've ever judged someone for being authentic, right? Like, have you? I don't think I ever have.
No, I am often taken aback when I feel like someone's being authentic. And even like, despite assuming that they're coming to it with some level of insecurity or some level of fear, like the fact that they're able to do it makes me trust them more.
Yes.
I feel an immediate connection with them. So it's a powerful thing.
Yeah. To just remind yourself that you're not alone in these feelings, that everyone probably has them. And I really do think the difference between the person who does it and the person who does it and doesn't is the one that just says, okay, well, we're just going to keep going. And not to like minimize or look down on someone who isn't ready, right? Like, I think we have to realize that sometimes, you know, I've definitely sort of cowered or like backed away from something where I should have been stronger or should have been more confident in myself. So I don't judge those who perhaps aren't ready in some areas. So I think we also have to learn to be a little gentler with ourselves, right? When we're feeling insecure, and realize that, you know, it's okay to feel these things, not to beat ourselves up, because I think women, especially, we tend to beat ourselves up if we're not perfect or we're not constantly pushing ourselves.
Right. So speaking from like a mindset training perspective, I think leaning into it is absolutely a skill. So this is something that, like you've mentioned, that you've practiced it, like you were brought up this way, you learn how to do it, even though you had the pit in your stomach this morning, like you're going to do it because you can.
It's going to happen anyway. Yeah. Like kicking or screaming, or, you know, like, because I'm also like, I'm going to do it. Like, I'm going to do anything, but it's like, I'm going to torture myself along the way, basically.
Right. That's completely fair game. Well, so it's like, and it's sort of like, the image I use is like, you're at the bottom of a staircase and you want to get to the top. And for me professionally, it's always been key for me to visualize. So I always think about it this way. It's like, I'm not going to be able to jump to the top of the staircase. Like, I'm just not, I can't do that. But like one step at a time, you learn it as you go, and you just keep practicing it. I think
that is true. But don't you think that's a great metaphor too, for realizing that we get there like step by step, versus sometimes I think we put pressure on ourselves to be at like the finish line, and that it's really more of a growth process than it is being perfect right out of the gate.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because who is that? There's nobody. That's not a thing. That, like, we're human.
Right.
That's not a thing. We don't do that. That's not what we were here to do. Well, and all those quippy sayings, right? Like, it's not the destination, it's the journey. And don't judge your here by somebody else's, like, 30 years from here. Like, just because somebody's further ahead than you doesn't mean that's where you're supposed to be. And this is like a Tarahism. Like, I believe that you are right here, right now for a purpose. I think that everything that you've done and experienced has brought you where you are. So don't take that for granted. Just be present. And if you want to be somewhere else, take one step at a time.
Right. And then also, haven't you looked back and seen that while things seem like a failure or a setback, that in the bigger picture, it was exactly how it should have gone?
Oh, yes.
All the time, where I'm like, why isn't this happening? Why didn't it happen now? This should be happening now. And then I'm a failure and I can't do this and blah, blah, blah. And then you're like, oh, okay. So the other thing I try to do is not to be so like focused on that one immediate thing, or, sometimes I'll say something like, I really thought I knew best. And then like, the universe or God or whatever you want to call it, thank God they were there to step in, because they were like, no, you're an idiot. Trust me. There's a bigger picture down there.
Right.
I mean, I remember dating this guy for years, and like every time we tried to like move our relationship forward, like there'd be this like, something up against it. And then, when we broke up, I was like, thank God there was something bigger out there, smarter than me, because if I was left to my own devices, I would have made the poorest choices. Right. So when things happen that really suck, I always try to not get too hyper focused on the thing that sucks. I try to say like, okay, I know that in time, this is exactly what should have happened. And thank God it did.
I love that, because it is a choice to trust that.
Right.
And it does suck. Like, it's okay that things suck, but like, be there and just know that there's more to it.
Yeah, there's a great saying that I love, which is sometimes life hands you a piss-filled balloon, and you're wearing cactus gloves. Do you ever hear that?
No, but I have felt that way.
Right. Like,
very appropriate.
It's like we kind of, especially when we put ourselves in like a positive mindset, like then we're supposed to like, well, I'm a positive thinker, or I'm someone who, I'm optimistic. I read my affirmations every day, or I'm, the universe, and I'm creating my own reality. And then something really horrible happens and we think, oh, either I'm doing it wrong, I don't have enough faith, and then we realize again that get out of the smaller picture, think about the bigger picture, and stop realizing that that a failure is necessary. It's not necessarily a failure. And the other thing too, I think, is what guarantee were any of us given that we weren't supposed to suffer or struggle? Like, where was that given to us where we think life was bad today? Oh, that's not supposed to happen to me. Like, what? I don't remember getting any type of like guarantee when I was born,
Nope. Embrace the suckitude. Like, it's just part of it. It shouldn't last forever. And when it starts prohibiting, like the way you're thinking about it, if that's inhibiting you from going forward, that's when you need to make a change. But you're absolutely right. We are not entitled to feeling happy every day. We are not entitled to great days every single day.
Right. But we have the power to be as and not necessarily happy, because I don't think that's a state that we can be in all the time. But being happy doesn't necessarily control that the day is going to be perfect or go the way that we think it should. I'll tell you a very quick story that really firmed this up for me. And I was very young when it happened. And again, I lost my father 20 years ago. I was 23 years old. And I remember this is when I learned this lesson. My dad was dying. It was the night he died, actually. I was sitting in his bedroom. He died at home. My grandmother came in and she said to me, "You're too young to have to deal with this." And honest to God, I swear, I don't know where this came into my head in this like tragic moment. I looked at her and I just said, "Says who?" And in that moment, I learned that no one ever told me that this was not supposed to be my life. Right. That I wasn't supposed to lose my father at 23. Right. And to have that realization at such a young age, that like no one ever promised me my father would live longer than 46 years old. No one told me that. No one promised me that. Those were expectations that I believed were part of my life, that was the way it was supposed to be. But no one ever guaranteed that to me. And so, so again, talking about like being able to look bigger picture versus small, to be able to look at my life and say that there were blessings that came out of losing my dad. Like to be able to get to that point. And I think it's hard for people who have recently dealt with loss to really wrap their brains around that. And it sounds almost insensitive. But when you've been through something that long and you can look back and you can say, my life went this way, or I learned this lesson, or I learned a lesson very young, there's gems in that, you know? And I think you have to be willing to be open to them at least.
It's openness. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, and then that goes back to the idea that like we live in this world where happiness means this like odd sense of like euphoric bliss. Like that's not happy, right? Like that's almost
there's joy, right? There should be joy. You're not going to be getting stupid happy every day, right?
Right. Like we're not all going to walk around like Zabi. Like I mean, I don't think that's real.
If you see someone like that, like that's another sort of flag across the street.
You're like, okay. You know, like they're almost like hyperactive people who are like, life is fabulous, it's so perfect. Ah! And you're like, I don't know what you're taking, but right. I might want to have it a little because I don't live in that world, you know? So yeah. How did we get onto this from Insecurity? I guess it all just
I love it. No, it's all part of it, right? Like, so it feeds on itself.
This is why we're doing this.
That's right. It's just a conversation.
This is basically you and I.
This is it.
Welcome to our world.
Well, so the same speaks for Insecurity. I don't want any woman to think that like they're supposed to feel absolutely confident and 100% leaned in at any point in time. Like that's just, again, not real. It's when you're able to acknowledge that there's a fear and make a choice to do something contrary to that fear, because if you stayed in the fear, you would not be able to do what you really want to do. Mm-hmm. And it is a choice and it's a skill that you can practice. I think that's how we got there.
Yeah. And also like, what is that balance between, and you might be able to answer this better, like what is that balance between having fear or being disappointed or dealing with something and then like being able to like, I have a paperweight of an octopus, it's actually a squid, a jellyfish. I'm sorry, it's a jellyfish. Because jellyfish in the ocean, like if you look at a jellyfish, they kind of go with the waves and they kind of just move. And I always remind myself, because I'm not a good jellyfish who can just go with the flow. So I always try to be a jellyfish. So like, how does one become a jellyfish, right? Like where you're not necessarily letting the waves just crash over you and like, you know, pummel you, but you also understand the waves are there, right? Like that's a big, I think, lesson for people to learn is how do we balance that sort of the storm's hitting us. We're not going to necessarily allow ourselves to be victimized, but we're not like going to be stupid either. So, or we're not going to like lean into what's going on. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's hard, right? Because you don't want to be a pushover, but you do want to go with the flow. So it's
right.
I'm not saying that I have all the answers. And just for the record, like I'm not a therapist.
Right.
In no way constitutes
we don't know.
Therapy. Just for anybody watching.
Our own experience.
Master's in clinical psychology. I'm not a licensed therapist. It's practice. I think it comes down to learning to recognize your own intuition, learning to be able to articulate what it is you really want. And of course, if you're being taken advantage of, that's another opportunity for you to stand up for yourself, against insecurity, against fear, against potential consequences. This is just part of growing up and being a human. I don't have a clear answer for it, but if you do have thoughts that are prohibiting you from doing what you think you want to do, like there's a couple of really quick exercises. Like one of them is as simple as a thought log. So whenever you experience something, if you're being bounced against the rock again and again as a jellyfish, right? And you want to swim away or make a different choice in your real life, but you feel inhibited. You feel like that insecurity is keeping you from doing that. One of the simplest tricks is it's called a thought log. You just literally take a pen and paper, make a note on your iPhone, whatever works for you, but note, what the situation is, where you felt that feeling, exactly what that emotion was. If you can put words around it, try your best. What were those negative automatic thoughts? So what kept you from making the choice that you feel like you really wanted to make? Were you afraid that you would get fired? Were you afraid you'd get yelled at? Were you afraid you'd get made fun of or fired? Like track that. Let's articulate that. And And then what evidence do you have to support that thought would actually happen? Because that's where the dysfunction can really switch. That's, for me anyway, that's been where I've been able to make the most positive switches. Like chances are I'm not going to get fired, right? Chances are nobody's really going to yell at me. Chances are, so just look at the actual evidence, take a step back away from the emotion. And that's what this tool is really supposed to do, is to give you some of that distinction between speculation and fact. And then, you can write down in the thought log what's an alternative thought when it comes along, right? So like, I'm afraid I'm going to get yelled at in the meeting, but possibly I'll get appreciated for raising a real concern or whatever it is for your situation. So I'll post some links and some tools down here in the summary notes.
You know what I like too is the cost and benefits list.
Yeah.
I like to look at, if a behavior is something I don't like, and I want to change it and I haven't, well, there's always a payoff to keeping it, even if it's negative. And then like, what is it costing me? But what are the payoffs? Because I don't think we do anything unless we're getting some kind of payoff, even if it's negative.
You're absolutely right. Right.
So sometimes what I'll do is, if I keep repeating a behavior, like, why do I keep doing this? I will definitely look at, well, there has to be some kind of payoff for me. And it's usually ugly. Like, it's overeating even, well, it's giving me some kind of immediate pleasure. I don't want to, deal with X, Y, and Z. So I do that a lot.
I completely relate to. I just hired a new fitness coach. Actually, I'm super excited to be working with her. And I told her that I came to this realization that I was eating so clean during the day, like squeaky clean. The kids would go to bed and my husband and I would sit on the couch and we would just like binge like a bag of chips and a bottle of wine. Mm-hmm. Like, that's because I was letting myself believe that was the only time during the day that I could make a decision for myself and sort of treat myself well. But that for me was a dysfunctional thought, right? So like, the pros of doing that negative behavior that I acknowledged was not good for me was indulging in a belief that isn't even true, right? So even acknowledging that has made it so much easier. In the last 2 weeks, we haven't done that. So acknowledging the thought, what's the benefit? Like you said, the pro-con list. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Love it, Bridgette.
Ah, yes.
Yes. This is so fun.
It is fun. We need to do this more often.
Yeah, we do need to do this more often. Yay.
Yay, for sure. But I think we all need to remember that everyone feels the same way.
That's right. And it's okay.
And it's so okay. Like, I was telling you about my class reunion, right?
Oh, yes.
So I went to my class reunion. I don't remember if it was at my class reunion or shortly after my class reunion. We had lost a classmate, and I went to a very small high school where there was only 100 people in our class. So it's almost like a large dysfunctional family. And I was talking with some of the girls I went to high school with that I wasn't even really that friendly with, and we were all sort of talking about how we felt in high school, which was insecure or worried about what other people thought, or we didn't think we were pretty enough, or, all the typical things that you feel as a high school student. And, oftentimes you look at the more popular girls and think, well, they have it all together. They don't feel these things. And what I realized was we all felt the same. And I remember thinking, if we only had a time machine and could go back, how different would that experience be if we all realized we were feeling the same thing? We'd probably have a lot more compassion towards each other. We'd probably be a lot more open. We'd probably be more understanding. We'd probably have a lot more fun, So it was really one of those where I thought, my God, what a missed opportunity, And we always, youth is wasted on the young. We don't realize it then, but we go back and you start talking and you're like, you felt that way too? Oh my God, I thought you had it all together. Nobody has it all together.
Oh my God, Bridgette. That's, that's a really good homework challenge assignment maybe. Is the next time you're feeling insecure because you're thinking someone else is judging you, take a second and recognize that it's entirely possible, likely, that they're feeling insecure too, even as adults, right?
So, it's still there. I mean, yeah, and absolutely. And realize that nobody cares enough about people are way too narcissistic. I think that we have to remember because think about how all consumed we are with ourselves. Yep. So you think someone else isn't all consumed with themselves? They don't care about you and your worries and all that stuff. They're all worried about what you think of them.
Right. That's it. Oh, I love this. This is life-changing stuff, Bridgette.
Yeah.
It was for me. Like, don't you feel like you're light years ahead of where you were? I do.
From where? From when we started this conversation?
Yeah, no, I was thinking about high school specifically because of your story, but yeah.
30 minutes ago.
From 30 minutes ago.
Yes, I am a completely evolved human being in the 30 minutes we've been talking.
It's possible. I'm just kidding.
That's yes. As far as from high school, light years. Yeah. I remember when I was a kid, my mother talking about being in high school, and she said, they were the best years of my life, but I would never want to do them again. And I remember being a kid, it doesn't make any sense. Like, and now I'm like, yeah, how is that even, that doesn't even make sense. And now when I think about it, I'm like, oh yeah, some of the best years of my life would, like, I wouldn't trade, like I wouldn't take a suitcase or a briefcase of money to go do high school again. But
no, you could not pay me.
No, yeah. But I'm glad I had the experience.
Absolutely. Good stories, if nothing else. And
bad outfit choices.
Yes. Yes. God help us all. That's why everyone who's watching this should call Bridgette immediately. And make sure you're not making bad outfit choices that you'll regret 20 years from now.
Yes. Listen, we keep it real. I really, when I started my business, I remember thinking to myself, I want to be there for the woman who feels like she's ignored by this industry. You know, I love the industry I come from. I've been in this industry since, like I said, since I'm 20 years old. But I know that there's this huge population of women who are just trying to figure it out, who don't know how to make it better, who feel very insecure about the fact that she missed something, wasn't raised by someone who taught her, has a body shape that isn't ideal, has a stomach that looks like a topographical map because she had 3 children, you know, whatever it is. Like, let's be honest about it. Let's be open about it. Let's really talk about it. So the Facebook group has been awesome for that. But like I said, it's all these women who are doing it. They are amazing. It's not me. I pop in every once in a while. But they're insane. They're incredible, incredible women. I love them. I love them.
It's a really fun group. Well, and I don't know where else I feel safe on the internet going and saying, like, does this look okay? Yeah. Or like, yeah. I have really odd shaped feet. Like I wear an 11 wide. I'm sure I could pop in the group and get immediate response to where I could buy some really cute shoes. Yeah. So I love that.
You know, it's when your administrator, being me, posts something like asking if you all get like eat your breakfast topless in the morning. Yeah. I was one morning, what I do when I get ready is I wear everything in a bra, and then I brush my teeth and I put my makeup on and eat my breakfast, and then I put my shirt on before I leave the house. And I was like, does anyone else do that? And like, resounding yes. Absolutely. Because I know I'll stain it otherwise. Well, yeah, it's just efficiency. like it's just being practical. Yeah, I mean, I got these big boobs. I'm just going to spill something, you know? So like whatever. So I walk around. If I'm wearing a tank, I'll put that on. But like if I have a nice shirt, I will walk around in my bra and my pants or whatever. And then right before I leave the house, it's like it goes on. Yeah. And that is the reason my husband makes us keep the curtains closed in the house all the time. I don't even think my husband notices it anymore. Like, it's hilarious. I've been married like 10 years. And like I can walk around in like a bra and he's like, completely like oblivious, just like oblivious. Like, wait, that's what you wear in the morning. Yeah, he's like, there she is in her bra. Thank God she has a bra on. You know, wah, the great Frank. Yes, and I dress for women for a living. Yes, hire me. Yeah. Well, yeah. I know you get uncomfortable with compliments, but it's because you can be real. That makes it really accessible, and you're just brilliant. That's my insecurity that doesn't allow someone to compliment me. Receive it, Bridgette. Let's practice receiving. Maybe we could do another talk about how to receive compliments and receive in general. Like the money woo-woo stuff is. I would love to talk about that because I have a really hard time with that. I have a really hard time with allowing it to come back to me. So, yay! Like, if you want to make me really uncomfortable, Tarah, never have people sing "Happy Birthday" to me. Oh. Okay. I hate it. Well, I don't like being sung to. I don't like musicals, but like, I don't like being sung to or like, you know, like have people like gather around and like, no, it's like, I'm like, no. And I'll be all self-effacing and I'll make fun of myself. Like that's my defense mechanism is humor and deflection. Absolutely. So I'll be self-effacing and I will like laugh at myself. So that's our next topic. Well, there we go. How to let it in. How to let it in.
Receive, receive.
My arms? I've been working out. Okay.
Yes, you have. You're killing it. I'm super excited to join you on the killing it path.
Yes. Yes.
She's amazing.
Yes.
I'll post her link next time too. Okay.
How to receive the good stuff you're putting out there. Because I put a lot of good stuff out, but the receiving back is not my strong suit. So,
well, you know, then you're blocking it. I'll tease with this. If you're not receiving it, you're blocking additional blessings, money, compliments, praise, promotion, advancement, all of that stuff. Receive what you're given. Let the universe know that you're a good receiver, and you'll just keep bringing it in.
Yeah, no, can't do it. Can't do it. And that goes back to the pros and con list. Like the benefits and the costs. Like there's a lot of benefits for me to not receive. So, but I give. And then I'm like, no. So yes, next topic. We're going to talk about it.
I'm so excited, Bridgette. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, thank you.
It's a grand experiment of ours.
I know.